Lost Generation coming back with another fireside chat. Very important topics right now. What are we going to be touching on? Three things that all interweave: direct deposit, auto bill, and online banking. Boy, the convenience, the ease of modern life. I can do all my banking on my phone, and I don't have to cash a paycheck. And, I don't even have to, wait a second, I don't have to pay my own bills. It'll just take it automatically. That's great. Everyone is in a mad dash for convenience and ease. And most importantly, in doing so, people are surrendering their sovereignty. That's correct. You are surrendering your sovereignty by signing on to all these things. I don't use any of them. And I'm going to try to make my case as to why I don't use any of them. I'm going to try to make my case on why most people are overusing them, and it is, a bad thing, if not ruinous, to the lost generation's financial practices. So, let's try to scratch the surface here and really get into it. Direct deposit. What are the drawbacks to direct deposit? First of all, most people, when they get direct deposit, they fall into a groove of comfort where they're no longer keeping track of if they're being paid properly. In addition to that, many times you don't notice if you were paid improperly until you've already used the funds or they posted to your account. If you get a regular paycheck, it has the advantage of having the stub attached right there in the check, where you can read it, make sure you have the correct hours, the correct overtime, all of that good stuff. And if there is an issue, you can dispute it right then and there before you cash the check, before you put it into your bank account. And I think that's a bonus, personally. Okay, let's move on and look at some other cons. So with direct deposit, everything goes through your bank account. Every penny you have goes through your bank account. That, for me, is a dumb idea. For most people, they'll say, oh, I don't have anything to hide. But that is the weakest, most pathetic argument for surrendering your privacy and sovereignty that I've ever seen. Flat out. The worst argument. There may be times in your life when you want to have operational funds outside of the banking system that no one knows about. In fact, if you talk to any old timer, they'll tell you that that's not just a want or desire, that is a necessity. You need to have something off the table, folks. You need to have something that's not easily traced and frozen. Your bank account could be frozen by the powers that be anytime they want to do so. But it could also be paralyzed by other forces, such as the power going out, bank holiday, etc. Things that you don't think about now, but in a pinch will make a huge, huge difference. I'll let you in on one more thing with direct deposit that is a drawback that you may not identify right off the bat. If you do direct deposit and you do auto bill and you do online banking, you're never really going to get to know your bank staff. And I am a big advocate of getting to know your bank staff. Well, why is that, Lost? Well, I will tell you why. If you go to the same bank branch and you know everyone there and they know your habits and they know you on a first name basis and you shoot the shit with them, and basically it creates an atmosphere where things get a little bit more lax. Not in that they're going to let you get away with crimes or anything like that, but at an average bank now, they're trained to question and or report all sorts of things that you don't realize. And if you go into most banks and want to withdraw a large amount of money from your account, they're going to ask you why. And some of them might try to refuse that you are able to do that. Basically tell you, oh, well, we can't do that all in one lump sum. We don't have the money, or if it's a certain amount, they're obligated to report you. And so when I go to my bank branch, they don't question what I do as long as it's within reason, and I like that. But let's say there was some sort of crisis. If I went in and wanted to get the money out of my account, them knowing me on a personal level, they'd be much more willing to help me as a person recover my money. There's a lot of different nuances and factors into that. The other thing is, with me, I like to order coins a lot so I can search through them, and they give me absolutely zero hassle. Zero. Foreign currencies, coinage, a lot of the stuff that would be a hassle for them to do for average people, they do for me, no problem, and I don't get reported for it because they know what I'm doing is above board. So those are a couple different items that I can describe that go to show there are drawbacks to direct deposit. Now let's talk about auto bill. Auto bill is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard of in my life. You are going to allow a corporation, probably one that you dislike, probably one that is chiseling you every month on prices, like a cable company, an energy company. You're going to allow them and trust them to draw that money right out of your account. Seems absolutely insane to me. If you pay your bills regularly without auto bill, guess what? You get to control when you pay your bills. You get to control when the money comes out of your account. What bigger bonus do you really need to hear? I mean, it's kind of like direct deposit. You've got to make sure everything's on the up and up anyways, because what happens if they double bill you, which I've seen happen. I've seen it happen. Double billing, improper billing, and a lot of you are just letting it all get sucked out and you're not even keeping track of it. You get comfortable and you stop keeping track of it and you just trust the corporation. You just trust them to bill you. Oh, how insane is that? Let's just throw away the little sovereignty we have left and trust the corporations, trust the banks. I don't even get the mentality. You can call me a Luddite or whatever you want to call me, but I'm just coming from the thinking of the old school. It's all I grew up with was the old school guys, old school cats, old school financial planning for the household. And there's a lot of wisdom in that because those guys, they all saw hard times, especially if they're alive during the Depression. And the younger generation, you've never seen that type of hard times, but it's all possible and it all can happen again. We're not proof of crisis because we're America. So it's just because in your whole life you haven't experienced it doesn't mean that it won't happen. It's short-sighted to think that it won't happen or can't happen. But, these are short-sighted in a lot of other ways anyways. So I'm hoping that maybe you think about some of these things. These aren't pivotal points on their own, but once we tie it all together, hopefully my case will be made a little bit better. So let's talk about online banking. First of all, you're exposing your banking credentials and your accounts to the internet, which I'm not really comfortable with anyway, so I don't do any form of online banking. But let's say it's encrypted and secure and you're comfortable with it. Okay, so now you're distancing yourself from the people at your bank branch once again. And you're relying on this website or device to do your banking. And a lot of people will wait till the last minute to pay a bill, then there'll be an issue with their payment, then they go to log in. Maybe you can't log in, or the system's down, or your account's locked. And they do lock accounts and credit cards and stuff like that pretty regularly for security reasons. And I know someone where they'd wait till the last minute to pay their bills, and then they'd have some sort of issue, and well, I'll just take care of it on my phone instead of going into the bank. They go to log in, the account's all frozen for security purposes. Takes them multiple days of phone calls to straighten it all out, get it reset, and by then their bill is past due. Or, just the inconvenience of it, being locked out of your account. I just don't understand what's so difficult about managing it the old way and controlling everything. So let's tie it all together. This is where it really all comes into play, because the lost generation is largely the generation of direct deposit, auto bill, and online banking. You're using all those things. When you're using all of those things, you're not making sure you're getting paid. Most people are not following up, making sure they're getting paid the right amounts at the right times. And you have, let's say you have 5 or 6 bills that are on auto bill. They're all typically going to come out at slightly different times. It could vary by a few days, up to a week or more. So if you have direct deposit, let's say into a checking account, and you're using an ATM card, you're using your bank card like a credit card, and maybe you write a check with your phone app or something once a month. You are buying coffees with your bank card, and you're buying other items with your cash drawn out of your ATM. And sure, you're going to get a statement when you do your ATM, but you're never going to have the exact amount, typically speaking, of what's in your account. And on top of that confusion, add the confusion of 5 or 6 different bills being drawn out directly at times that, let's face it, you're never going to keep track properly of all of this. I've met so many people that use this system. I've never met a single one that knew what they had in their account at that time and when their bills were going to come out and what amounts they were. I mean, you would have to know what every bill is going to be, when it's coming out, every dollar you spent with that bank card, every dollar you took out of the ATM, and you would have to use some form of clairvoyance to account for the fact that your cable company is probably going to raise your bill this month, or you went over data on your phone bill and that's going up. I mean, is this making sense yet to you folks? I can't understand this new way of doing it where you never know what's in your checking account at any given time, and you're paying for coffees with cards. You should never be using cards for small everyday items like that, ever. And you should always know what's in your account at all times. Stop being lazy. Stop throwing away your sovereignty. Do something for yourself. It is greatly beneficial. And I'm not saying this, like I'm on a high horse. It's just inconceivable to me. So it's like if you went to a foreign country and had culture shock, maybe you went back in time and you went to Tenochtitlan and the Aztecs were sacrificing thousands of people, you'd have a little bit of culture shock. That's what it's like for me when I see these people. They're like, I just can't get a grip on my finances. I can never seem to get ahead. And they're using this system where they're not following up on any of it. And they're just trusting their employer, all the companies that are billing them, the online bank thing. And you're not going to keep track of it all. You're never going to remember all those dates. You're never going to check every pay stub in your HR account or whatever. You're never going to actually calculate all those bills. You fall into a routine where you're just trusting it all. And people's accounts get overdrafted when they get auto billed or depleted, and then they rack up more charges. Absolutely astonishing. And there is other ways to do it. And I'm going to make a video on how I do it. Not that you need to do the way I follow myself, but just to show you there's an alternative line of thinking, alternative way to do it where you have total command over your own assets and money. This is stuff that I've just picked up mostly from watching it done by others, and the wisdom that I picked up from older people. But it's definitely what works for me, and I will be sharing that with you in a video. Hopefully, I'm somewhat made my case here, and you consider maybe changing some of these practices with auto bill, direct deposit, and online banking. Lost. We'll get you found.